Hello, nerds! This segment that you're about to watch actually comes from the live show. If you want to join in the conversation live, then the place to do that is youtube.com/generallynerdy. So I'm done rambling. Let's get to the clip, shall we? So this one, we have Lily Wachowski, so not Lana, not the one who made the fourth Matrix movie. That was Lana Wachowski. This is Lily Wachowski, unimpressed by Trump admin's The Matrix obsession. Quote, right-wing ideology appropriates absolutely everything, unquote. That is the title of the article. Bounding into Comics has just incredibly long article titles, rather. I don't understand it, but whatever. So the article reads, and this is another thing that we have touched on a number of times throughout, honestly, kind of since Matrix Revolutions, or Matrix 4, which one was 4? Resurrection, there we go, came out. We've talked about it, kind of touched on it a couple of times, but we'll get into it. So while the United States' current Reddit-occupied government has a particular and almost overbearing appreciation for the Matrix. Red pill occupied government, maybe? In particular, its blue pill, red pill metaphor. Series co-creator Lily Wachowski views their fanaticism as yet another textbook example of how, quote, right-wing ideology appropriates absolutely everything, unquote. A heavy favorite of top Trump admin officials, including FBI Director Kash Patel, FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, Vice President J.D. Vance, and failed Doge Director, that's funny, Elon Musk, whose agency closed last week roughly 8 months ahead of schedule and with little to show for their wanton abuse of American citizens' private information. Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Said metaphor is usually used in reference to one taking the red pill and thus waking up to the truth of the world as based on Morpheus's iconic declaration to Neo in the first Matrix film. I mean, they did go with blue and red, the two political colors of the country from which they come. Like, that... Again, this is just prime example. This is the best example of left-wing content creators or left-wing directors, artists, we'll say, not understanding the message they're actually putting out. Trying to put out one thing, but actually putting out another. Quote, you take the red pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and you believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. Did I say red pill twice? You take the blue pill, the story ends. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Oh, it's such a great scene. And also, this, like, the fact that they legitimately had to film this three different times, effectively, because you have Morpheus in the A shot, we'll call it. This is the main frame of the shot, right? And then you have the one hand with the red pill, the one hand with the blue pill, and then you have two different, very obviously different Keanus, because this Keanu has his hand up. This Keanu's body posture is different in that you can see his shoulder is down and his hand is not up. So, like, it's just those little things. After you've seen this movie a million times like I have, it's those little things that's like, man, they really put a lot of love and care into making that movie. It's so good. Anyway, distractions aside, let's move on. However, despite the Matrix's co-option by right-wing ideologies, Wachowski says she's had to come to terms with the idea that any given piece of media will inevitably take on life of its own, regardless of its creator's original intent or opinions. I mean, the original creator one of the original creators in the fourth movie made it a binary. So, whatever. Discussing her general creative process during a recent appearance in the So True with Caleb Heron podcast, Wachowski explained, I want my work to have a level of catharsis for myself, and so to do that, I need to put myself into my work. And if people want to read into it, you've just got to let it go. People are going to interpret it however they interpret it. Look at, all the crazy mutant theories and right-wing ideologies that the Matrix films helped create. Really? I'm just like, what are you doing? No, that's wrong. But I have to let it go to some extent, or else I'm engaging in. You're never going to be able to make absolutely every single person believe what you initially intended. I think it would have been cool for... I can't even think of the character's name now. I think it would have been a cool thing as a tertiary character, the one character who she's the only one that wears the white leather when everybody else is wearing black, or the white vinyl, whatever the hell, when everybody else is wearing black. Originally, that character was supposed to be female in the real world and male in the Matrix. I think it would have been an interesting addition. And it would have been tertiary, so it would have been, not distracting from the plot. It wouldn't have been a point that they felt like they had to make out in the open and beat us over the head with it. It just would have been an interesting little thing, right? So, but they didn't end up doing it for reasons that I think we've already talked about, or tried to figure out. I think a lot of that stuff is I think you're trying to shoehorn in some modern narrative stuff into something that happened way before you ever had those ideas. But the article continues. From there, specifically pressed by Heron as to, quote, how you've dealt with these loser freaks co-opting this thing to make it something it's not, unquote. Wachowski again chose patience, commendable, and declared, I have no idea. I don't make stuff anymore with the idea that I want it to reach as many people as possible. I make to make, right? It's like you just finished. Sorry, it's harder. It's much easier to read when people are writing, not when you're transcribing words that somebody was speaking. So I apologize. This is a little bit rough, but it's like you just finished Trash Mountain, an upcoming comedy film starring Heron, for which Wachowski originally signed on to direct, but has since headed off her duties to fledgling director Chris Swanberg. That experience is the reason you're there, not what comes after, so I try to be as present as possible. Now, this isn't what I always did. It's taken me a while to get to this point of view. I want to be present and relish every single day of the making that I have, because the beauty of filmmaking is that you get to come together in this community, all these different artists, and bring this thing that is in your brain into this new form. And that new form is a collective art piece. And so when I think about The Matrix and the success it had, that's something that I think artists or filmmakers or any artist really, they place too much emphasis on those kind of successes. And I don't think that's necessarily a success. She continues, it's like right-wing ideology appropriates absolutely everything. They appropriate left-wing points of view, and they mutate them for their... What left-wing point of view did the right ever appropriate? That's ridiculous. To obfuscate what the real message is. That is what fascism does. So, of course, you're going, all right, again, I'm going to plug the other channel, because I have started another channel. I did a whole video about people who just throw around the word fascism and kind of how to negate that in your conversation with them, because you're just calling names. Like Lily, Larry? Lily is just calling names at this point, because I would be very surprised if Lily really understands what fascism is, but, that's neither here nor there at this point. So, of course, it's going to happen. They do it with absolutely everything. I mean, there we go. I mean, look at Make America Healthy Again. The idea of putting scientific gender in the words of, where are they even putting this? To say there are only two biological genders, a reference to President Trump's January executive order regarding gender ideology extremism. They're calling science, but it's not science. That's what fascism... I mean, it is, though. So, again, example of somebody in the ideology not understanding the talking points of their own ideology. You have... Let's see if we can break this down in some sort of quick manner, all right? So, Scientific gender, the only argument that I have heard that has any kind of room to carry any sort of water for this argument that Lily is trying to make here is we express ourselves. Self-expression is basically a series of electrical impulses in the brain, which makes it a physical thing, which makes it an interpretable thing, which means there are different ways to express and so on and so forth. So, like, that makes a little bit of sense how somebody could have experienced the world, have physically experienced the world, and that change the way that they go into self-expression. Like, that is as much of a logical explanation as I have heard for the trans argument out of anyone. Most people say it's just how you feel, and that's not an argument. So, everyone who is educated on the topic that I have heard make any sort of salient point on either side acknowledges one thing. Both sides acknowledge one thing, except for apparently Lily Wachowski, and that is that your biology, aka in this instance, scientific gender, which is a weird thing, your biology means there's one of two options. You have XX chromosomes or XY chromosomes. We do not necessarily need to acknowledge, though these people do exist, the less than 1% of people who have some sort of mutation, because they are the exception. They are not the rule by any stretch of the imagination. That is, again, not to say that they don't exist, blah, blah, blah. So, the one thing that both sides pretty much without any argument can acknowledge is that biology is chromosomal and means XX or XY. That is scientific gender. It is the sex question, because they have decided that gender and sex are different. That is where the issue is primarily coming from. But that's not how Lily's acknowledging it here. So the fact that Lily is laughing at the idea and then calling it fascism, even though 99.9% of the people who would agree with Lily will cede this one point, is laughable in and of itself. So I'm sorry, we're spending way too much time on that argument. Makes these ideas, continuing on with the article, makes these ideas that are generally acknowledged as questions or investigations or truisms about humanity and life, and they turn them into something else. They remove the weight of what those things represent. Let's go back to the original argument, though, of co-opting Make America Healthy Again. That's a fun one, because how is that... It was, I will cede this ground to the argument, it was definitely a byproduct of capitalist society that got us into the horrible situation we are in with the general health standards of this country, of the Western world in general. Because if you could make it cheaper and faster, then it was considered to be better, and therefore that is what took dominance in the market. Largely because true capitalism is very difficult to achieve, because true capitalism would require that the people engaging on the consumer side of the capitalist agreement, that would require those people to be fully educated on everything they're giving their money to, right? So you would have to be able to fully educate the masses as to what all of these chemicals are in order for the market to truly decide which is the best. Because that is the when you break it down to its most basic elements, that is how capitalism works, right? The best thing wins because it's the best thing, and everybody realizes it's the best thing, so that's what they spend their money on. When you have corporatization, and you have a system that lends itself to corporations being able to obfuscate or sometimes outright hide the things that they are putting into their products, or lie about them and lie about their health, since we're talking about food, lie about their health values. That's not an honest engagement in the capitalist market. And that's why it's very difficult, because you have to have some sort of balance. You have to have some sort of entity. In an ideal world, it would be a non-governmental entity, be an independent entity that would be able to educate everyone on all of the products that are ever sold anywhere. But that's not realistic, because that takes a lot of... It's just not the way our society works in Western culture at all. So, yes, I will cede that it was a byproduct of a capitalist kind of adjacent, we'll call it, because it's corporatism. It's not capitalism, it's corporatism that got us here. And now that the science is to where it is, where we can educate the people and the people are seeing the horrible things that we've done, that's where MAHA comes from. That's where Make America Healthy Again comes from, because it was before we put all of these chemicals and all of these substitutions into our food that we were healthier as a whole. I don't know by how much, because life expectancy today is much greater than it was back then, but that's largely, there's extenuating factors there too. This is so not entertainment news, but like that you can't just brush by and in previous years, we wouldn't have done this, because I wanted to just talk about the things that make us laugh and smile and have a good time when we're at the movies, we're reading comic books, we're playing video games, whatever. Like, that was the goal of the channel. But in recent months, we'll say, without getting too descriptive, I mean, I made a whole freaking video about why things are changing on the channel. But in recent months, I'm not just going to let statements like this pass by, because like that is part of the problem. That is part, like we were talking about previously, that is part of the problem of why there is a dominance on one side versus the other. Well, in my humble opinion, the wrong side, I would call it, because these people have had such a market dominance for so long, because again, we're not going to get too far into the weeds on that, but this is why, because conservative-minded people have just like let them make statements like this, and understanding in their own brains that that statement is incorrect, or that statement is misleading, or what have you, they just go, oh, whatever, they don't know what they're talking about, but they don't address it publicly. So we are addressing these things as they happen publicly these days. So, again, bird walking, and I apologize, but let's continue on with this. At present, Wachowski has no confirmed projects on her upcoming... On her upcoming schedule, she most recently served as an executive producer for Dolls, a short film retelling of the Stepford Wives with an all-trans cast, which is currently making its premiere on the independent film circuit. Oh, okay. I mean, like, there's a reason why this is the only thing we've heard from Lily in a long time. There's a reason why this, like in the general conversation of pop culture, right? There's a reason why that Lana hasn't done anything noteworthy except for The Matrix 4, hasn't done anything noteworthy in a long time. Because they have made their ideology their entire life and nobody cares. So, that is where we're going to drop that. Thank you very much, nerds, for tuning in. If you want to level up your nerdy, geeky, pop culture knowledge, then don't forget to subscribe and do all of the things. Go check out the main channel, Generally Nerdy, for the larger portion. Again, you get all of these sections into one convenient video over on Generally Nerdy. The name of the show is The Week in Nerddom. Thank you for checking out this clip. We will see you next time. Before we go, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.